What's up, Attack MMA? I'm your host, Zach Weicker, and today we got a very special guest. He's a professional fighter with a 6-1 record, and will be fighting on UFC Fight Night on August 9th. Please welcome Julius Walker. Julius, thank you for coming on.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course, and before we get into the fight, something I always find fascinating is every fighter's origin story. So how and when did you get into the sport of MMA?
Man, so I played basketball in college. I played for my first 2 years, and I was, not making the best decisions, and my basketball career ended a little bit early. I found out I was having my oldest daughter, and I took a few months off. Wasn't doing too well, and I had a buddy in high school that did jujitsu, so I talked to him and started off training a little bit of jujitsu, and a few weeks later, I went to a few MMA classes and I had my first fight probably about 4 months later.
Yeah. And from a team sport in basketball to jiu-jitsu and MMA where it's one-on-one, how is that transition like for you?
It was really cool. It was a really fun aspect. Like there's, as a basketball player, obviously I played on some teams where I was a role player, but I also played on some teams where I was the star player. And spent a lot of time, as the star player. And whenever it's truly a one-on-one sport, you're definitely you're obviously the star player on your own team. And it's cool when having it be all on you. It can be a little bit more pressure, but you're also just a lot more in control, and it's a really cool thing.
Yeah, and of course, basketball training is very different from MMA training. So, what was your reaction and what was your experience like to your first ever training session?
Man, so I would say that when I started training jujitsu as a basketball player, we did not, especially the way that, the team I played on in college played, we did not lift a ton of weights. We were much more we were trying to play fast paced, small ball, run the floor. So I think like once I started grappling, the muscular endurance that it takes was really tough for me. Like I just remember being like, man, I thought I was strong, you know what I mean? And understanding what it was like to get tired and feel suffocated. I would say like the striking aspect, my cardio there when I first started, I thought that almost was easier in a way, but part of that was because I didn't know what I was doing. So it's a little bit easier when you aren't doing half the things you're supposed to be. But dude, combat sports, it's just a whole nother beast, 100%.
For sure, and from those early days of not exactly knowing what you're doing, now you'll be fighting in your second ever fight with the promotion, with the UFC. So, how excited are you for this upcoming fight?
Dude, I'm pumped. It was really cool. I got, a full as much of a camp as a fighter can ask for. Like I've known about this fight since May, so I had more than adequate time to prepare. My body feels good. I felt I was fortunate in terms of having a almost injury free camp, and I'm in a good place. Getting ready to go into the fight, I feel prepared. I feel like I've got the rounds in that I needed to get in, and I feel like I've got an advantage everywhere, and that I'm going to go dominate.
Yeah, and you took part of this camp to Vegas. So, what made you decide to take part of your training camp to Vegas?
Yeah, so man, one of the best things about being in the UFC that I've learned, since I did get signed and was able to have that debut, is just the advantages of being able to go to the UFC PI. And there's that, and on top of the level of training, which is the level of training partners that you have in Vegas, and the culture in Vegas, the MMA culture in Vegas, because there's such a high concentration of, UFC fighters and top level fighters, is that everyone's kind of get down to train with everybody. There's a lot of there's always going to be partners that you can have as if you're just willing to reach out. You'll be able to train with some of the top guys in the world, and then on top of that, you've got the PI. So for me, I'm basically being able to eat for free, know that the food I'm eating is good for me, and obviously having like all the recovery stuff that they've got at the PI, access to the weight room and access to the smoothie bar and just everything that they have at the PI, dude. It's really nice to be able to take advantage of that and train with really good guys. So I'm trying to go out there as much as I can, train with the best people that I can, and as I move forward, hopefully win more bonuses and get bigger contracts, I can make longer trips.
Definitely. And you mentioned a lot of great factors about the PI, and it's one of those truly phenomenal places. So
Mhm.
I'm always curious, what do you find to be the biggest benefit of the PI?
Man, honest dude, that's a tough one because it's the whole thing's really sweet. But I would say one huge thing is, you get as a fighter, you get the food is really cheap, and you get two $15 meal vouchers, breakfast and lunch. And with those, if you do it the right way, you could easily just get all your food at the PI and not actually have to pay for it. And yeah, like you could be like it's cafeteria food, but they're literally making it right there in front of you. So it's like the food is it's of good quality. And I like food in general, so, so yeah, that's probably why I'm a light heavyweight. But no, dude, it's that part's really cool. And then the other great thing, and this is great with the PI, but they'll ship them to you in general, is the UFC provides you with supplements. And that's really nice because that's a pretty big expense if you're taking, like a full stack of supplements for an MMA fighter. So that part's really sweet.
That's amazing, and definitely with the food there, I can definitely resonate with you there. A quick side question: when you're done with your weight cuts, what's your like favorite cheat meal?
Dude, when I'm here in Springfield, there's this place called I Love Tacos, and I'll go there and get some like couple chicken quesadillas. That place is elite. This time, since I'm going to be in Vegas, there's this place called Yardbird at the Venetian, and I'm 100% going to go there. They've got some chicken and waffles. It's like what they're known for over there. It's like bougie chicken and waffles, and I'm gonna go there and fricking have my finger up, maybe get a drink or something. Go crazy.
That sounds like an excellent choice. And back to Vegas, you mentioned the access to all these top level fighters that you've been able to train with. So, who are some of those guys that you've been spending the rounds with?
Man, dude, you when you're out there, it's cool. One part that's cool is like there's gonna be different people every time that you go to Vegas. And there's also going to be the guys that are always there. So like you'll pretty much like if you go to the PI and you go to Extreme, you could pretty much always train with Sean Strickland and like Alex Polizzi and guys like that. And like Roman Dolidze is usually up there. The last time I was there, they were there the whole time. And then like I went to Vegas in June and like Corey Anderson was up there most of the time. Like Carl Williams will be up there. And then there's also really good guys that just do jujitsu. So that you've got like one of my affiliate for my gym is Zenith, which is Robert Drysdale, and his headquarters are in Vegas. And he's got a guy named Nick Hartman who is he's an ultra heavyweight in jujitsu, but he's about my size, probably like 6'5", like 235, and he's won a brown belt world title, and like he's really super solid grappler. And then there's another dude named Vince Pizzuto who he's a big dude. Like I feel like he's probably like he's taller than me. He's like 6'6" or 6'7". He's probably like 250 or something. And that dude he made ADCC. Like he competed in ADCC. I think he medaled at one of the ADCC trials. So like super high level jiu-jitsu guy. And then there's like a whole cycle of other dudes that are going to be kind of going through. And I haven't even like I've never gone. There's other like there's Syndicate. There's so many people in Vegas that you could potentially go train with.
Yeah, and one of those guys you mentioned was Sean Strickland, who's a very polarizing figure in the MMA landscape. So, what are your conversations like with him, both inside and outside of training?
Dude, he's Sean Strickland's a good time, man. He keeps it real and he trains hard. 100%.
I love it. And now to your fight, you'll be fighting Raffael Cerqueira. So, what are your thoughts about your opponent and what do you know about his fighting style and his strengths?
I think he's a good fighter. Everyone's good in the UFC. He's got a lot of knockouts. He's got 8 knockouts. He's got a good diversity of techniques that he throws. Like he's got some good kicks, got some good spinning attacks. Black belt in jiu-jitsu, so he's like a pretty solid grappler. But honestly, like there's not you can't find just a ton of footage on him, and he mostly fought on the Brazilian regional scene and stuff. So it's hard to find a lot of footage on him. But I think he's a solid guy. I just think that I have a little bit of a physicality advantage, and I think that's going to show big time whenever we fight.
Yeah. And you mentioned his knockout power, you mentioned your physicality. Is there any other areas in this fight that you believe you will stand out?
I think if we do end up wrestling, I think that I'm gonna be just. I think I'm just the more like I'll win the scrambles and win the positions and end up on top there. So I think he'll have a pretty hard time if he tries to if he wants to go to the ground and get on top of me. I think he's gonna have a hard time. And if he does take me down, it's gonna be hard to hold me down. I've worked pretty hard on making sure that I'm solid at getting up. So and I really, man, my first UFC fight, like the way that I fought in such a way that I did gas out. Like I got pretty exhausted. I still put out a decent amount of output, I think, but I think if I am smarter, I'll be able to put out more output and get less tired. And obviously, I want to leave it all in there. So I do. At the end of the fight, I hope I'm pretty friggin' beat. You know what I mean? If you get to the end of the fight and you're not exhausted, I don't know what you're doing out there, or the other guy's just bad. But I think that I'm definitely going to be able to keep my pace going for the duration of the fight. And I don't know how his cardio is, but I think that maybe that's something that we'll end up finding out if it stretches past that first round.
Yeah, and you mentioned going the duration of the fight. So do you see this fight going all 3 rounds, or do you see yourself finishing him in one of the first two?
I think I'm going to finish him. I'll be really surprised if it goes past even a round and a half. But with the Alonzo fight, that was a fight that was everybody would have thought would have been over in the first round or two, and we ended up going the distance. So it's one of those things where you never really know. I think for me, I've tried to shift my mindset to having a game plan that it's like I'm going to go out there and dominate for 3 rounds, and then if I get the finish, that's a bonus. And just letting it come to me. I think if I go out there like at this level, I think that if I go out there chasing finishes every time, that it's gonna kind of bite me in the ass. So I'm trying to go out there and put on a pace that I can keep for 3 rounds and just dominate him everywhere, get out ahead of him and stay ahead of them.
And you mentioned that Alonzo fight, and that was your debut with the UFC. So despite the fight, despite the result, how much does it mean for you to be a UFC fighter?
Dude, it means a lot. It's a really cool accomplishment, but I definitely don't want to be one of those guys. There's a lot of guys that make it to the UFC and then that's about it. They don't even get through. I would love to know. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'd love to know the percentage of guys that even get a second contract with the UFC. So I definitely want to focus on now that I've made it to this new level, like kind of started over. So mentally, I'm 0-1. You know what I mean? So I've got to prove that I do belong in the UFC because it's one of those things where this is a guy I'm fighting that has had 2 fights and hasn't won one yet, and I've had a fight and haven't won one yet. So it's like someone's got to go out there and get that first W and show they belong.
Yeah, and you mentioned now that you are 0-1, and you hear a lot of times when fighters lose that O, it's kind of like weight lifted off their shoulder, and all that pressure of being an undefeated fighter is no more. Is that something you resonate with?
It's weird because like you have your amateur career, and as I went 7-3 as an amateur, so it's like I had lost 3 amateur fights. But although I did have the undefeated pro record, I tried not to think too much into it as I was going into my fights, and it's hard to think like, oh, you're undefeated when I did lose those amateur fights. But I definitely think like getting that first UFC fight out of the way is almost like a weight off your shoulders. Like I've made the walk to the octagon before, and it was in front of 17 or 18,000 people on the main card in Seattle. So it's like now I'm strolling out in a warehouse in front of a few hundred guys, and it's at the end of the day, it's just a dude. You know what I mean? Everybody is, and we're just fighting. It's something people have done since the beginning of time. So it's definitely going to be one of those things where. You can't build it up too much in your head, but I'm still taking it seriously. I'm going to go out there to get the kill.
I love that mindset. And you mentioned for your debut, you're fighting in front of 18,000, sold out arena. And for your debut, not just a fight, what do you recall from that whole experience?
Dude, it was sweet. Seattle was so I went to UFC 313 in Vegas in March, and when you go to a show in Vegas, one of the pay-per-views, like it's half empty until the main card. In Seattle, they hadn't had UFC fights in 12 years. So it was full from like the first or second fight. I remember when I got there, I believe the third fight was going on because you get there 2 hours before you walk. And when I got there, I think it was the third fight, and it was already packed. Like it was completely full. Like you could feel the energy, and it was a really hot crowd. So I had a good time out there. It was super cool. I remember walking out, and it was really hard to stop smiling. Like I was just like, man, this is so cool.
For sure. And for your first fight, you did not have an easy opponent. You fought Alonzo Menifield, who is someone that is currently ranked in the top 15 of your division. So, what is it like to fight someone of that caliber?
It was really cool. They gave me a huge opportunity right out of the gate. They gave me a top 15 guy on a main card, you know, and it gives you a lot of confidence, having already fought somebody that's in the rankings and somebody that's been with the company for a long time. I believe when he beat C, that was like his tenth win in the UFC. So it's a guy he now has double digit wins in the UFC, and it's not a super super common thing. Not a lot of guys have done that. I think he's had 15 or 16 fights with the UFC or something like that. So to know that I was able to go in there and go the distance with a guy like that, and it was a very competitive fight, builds a lot of confidence. But it showed me a level that I'd like to get to because I know that I can be competitive with those guys in the top 15, but it's about being able to beat them, and then you can start looking at the guys in the top 10 and the top 5. So I think it'll be nice to go back, fight a few unranked guys, get through this first contract, and build myself back up and get ready to make a challenge like that again, get myself another big opportunity.
For sure. And it was a split decision. So, when the ref's holding both of your hands and you hear them going back and forth between you guys' names, what is going through your head?
So it's funny. Somebody asked me this the other day. I've had so all my fights. I've never been finished, and I've got out of my. I won 13 of my between amateur and pro. I have 13 wins out of 17 fights, and only one went to decision. So I've got one decision win, but all my losses are by decision. So I got four decision losses, and only one was unanimous. So there's been two split decision, one majority decision where they read off all the scorecards, and like, dude, every time I've lost all of those now. You know what I mean? So every time that it's a split decision or like I'm the last couple, I've just been like, as soon as they say, he said, I think it was 30-27 Menafield, 29-28 Walker. I was like, yeah, no, dude, he's freaking winning. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I freaking lost, damn. I should have. But here's the thing, like, a lot of people, when you lose a split decision, all your friends and family or they want to say, oh, you won, you should have won, blah blah blah. All your people are biased enough to think that you won if it was that close. But you've got to take it on the chin and accept the loss. He landed clean shots in the fight, landed clean shots on the feet. I didn't get any takedowns, and he landed shots that made me I visibly reacted to him. So that was a learning experience for me. And I think in almost every round of that fight, I came out good in the first half of the round, and he was good in the second half of the round. So I think that was another thing that I really learned from that fight is you got to make sure you're going at a way where you can go through the duration of the round at the pace that you're at, and win the beginning and the end of the round. Like, understand that at the end of the day, there's judges watching, that if you don't finish this guy, they determine if you win or not. So make it look like you're winning.
Yeah. And I can only imagine when they're reading the scorecards, it's probably the longest 30 seconds of your life. But
Yes.
I love how you phrased it that even though all your friends and families may say you win, at the end of the day, you did lose and you take
Mhm.
it on the chin. So, how important is it for you to be able to take your losses and move on from them?
I think it's super important. As a fighter, if you win all your fights, there's almost nobody that's ever actually done that. So you've got to be able to take those losses and learning experiences and move forward, or you're never truly going to grow as a fighter. And especially when they're like the last fight that I had, where it is a close fight, and you might have those people telling you that you won, and you can even buy into that and tell yourself, oh, I should have won, blah blah blah. But it's like at the end of the day, there's you could have done more, and you have to keep the growth mindset going and be focused on improvement, focused on the process over the wins and the losses and the results. Because if you focus too much on the results, the sport's so up and down, it can definitely break you.
Definitely. And you are, of course, a fighter, always busy training, but when you have that free time and you have time to spare, what are some of your go-to things?
Man, so obviously I got my wife and my two daughters, so I love, family time's always good. Hanging out with my little girl. My oldest is 5.5, and she, is going to want to go outside and scooter, play, dribble the basketball, do that sort of thing. And we're also like, we're members at the pool up here, so I can go up to the pool, I swam laps the other day for some cardio. Go out there, the wife can sunbathe and the little one can splash around. So all that's fun. I like to play. I still play basketball here and there too. Sometimes maybe I shouldn't say this, but sometimes I hop in a men's league game or two here and there. Play up at the play in the local pro-ams. It's good cardio, and at the end of the day, I'm punching and kicking my teammates for training. So it's like I don't understand. A lot of people would be like, "Well, what if you get hurt?" But it's like, dude, I'm not getting punched or kicked or taken down. You know what I'm saying? I'm just playing some basketball. So I still get out on the court here and there too.
I love that. And are you also watch the sport as well, or you just like to play?
Man, I've became a basketball casual over the years, but I definitely have tried. I definitely want to start to become more of a less of an NBA casual. Growing up, I was always a Lakers fan, and after in that era between like 2012, 2013, after Kobe tore his Achilles through
Yeah.
until we got LeBron, which wasn't it's not even that long of a time, but the Lakers were pretty trash. And I started to get out of it, and that was also when I started to really become a bigger MMA fan. But it's like I still watch basketball here and there, but I think that'll be my next project is become not being a filthy casual anymore in terms of the NBA.
For sure. And it's definitely something that takes a lot of time out of the day. But
Yeah.
of course, something that else still takes a lot of time out of your day and something definitely worth taking out of time of your day. You mentioned you are a father. So
Mhm.
how much does fatherhood mean to you?
Man, it means everything. It's really important. As for me, it's one of those things where at the end of it's your why, it's your purpose. It provides you with all of those things that people kind of those are big words that I think a lot of people are searching for is like, why do I need to get up and work hard, or why do I need to have discipline, and you know what I mean, stay focused on the task at hand and strive to improve myself and be a better person, because in life it's pretty easy to get into a routine and coast. And that doesn't just go for fighters, that goes for people that are working a 9 to 5 and doing something like that. And I think in that world it's even easier to get into the routine, start coasting a little bit, and before you know it, a lot of time's gone by. But I think fatherhood and having my wife and kids gives me something to strive to improve myself as a person, be the best I can be. And that I think that helps me out every day and keeping me going.
I love that. And my final question for you is you have an amazing nickname in the juice box. So I got to know what's the origin story behind that?
Yeah, man, my college basketball coach gave it to me. He started calling me Juice, and it was funny. He's my college. This was, I mean, my coach is probably like he's probably like 70 now, because it's been, I was in college like 8 years ago, and he was like 60 at the time. But it was an OJ thing. He was like, you look like a young OJ. I was clean shaven because I couldn't even grow a beard at the time, and I had like a little baby fro. Still had the crisp hairline. It hadn't started creeping backwards yet. And I had a little baby fro, clean shaven. He said, "You look a little bit like a young OJ." Start calling me Juice. And then like my teammates started adding shit on, like JuiceBox and Juice Bucket and all the different things that you can put juice in. They put after the name Juice, and JuiceBox was like the main one. And it's like when I started fighting, I remember thinking like I could be Dr. J or JuiceBox. And I picked JuiceBox because I was like, that's way more marketable, and like there's already a Dr. J. You know what I mean? You could win 8 UFC world titles, and people are still going to think of the real Dr. J whenever they think of Dr. J. But there isn't really a juice box yet. OJ was juice, and um, hopefully, we can have a family friendly juice for people to remember whenever they talk about juice.
Yes, that's amazing. Great story. And before you head out of here, anything you want to shout out, anything you want to plug?
Dude, if for one, I appreciate you for having me on big time. Follow the channel if you guys are watching, subscribe, show some love. And also follow me on Instagram. It's your favorite juice_box. My Twitter is like your fave JuiceBox. Follow those, or I guess it's X. And I've been slacking on the TikTok lately, but after this fight, I'll try to. Here's the thing. My wife, she's supposed to come up with the TikTok trends for me. But we've been busy, so we're gonna get back on it, and we're gonna become like a TikTok couple or something like that here after this fight. So follow me on there, JuiceBox MMA. I'll be back. And then I try to shout out my sponsors. It's so hard to remember all of them. I need to go into these interviews with a little list right here, just write it on like my leg or something, and then look over and shout out all the sponsors. But you guys can find those on my social media. I just got some. I'm about to place an order. I just got a new shirt design. So if you guys look at my social media, shoot me a message or something. I'm selling some new juice shirts, $25 a piece, $10 for shipping. So get with me on those, and tune in on August 9th. Watch me knock out Raffael Cerqueira.
Julius, you're the man. I wish you the best luck in this upcoming fight. Folks, that's all for today. Until next time, peace.